back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to review a book that I absolutely loved, and it is the second one following on from Devil's Night Dawning. It is Warlock's Sun Rising by Damien Black. If you have not already seen my review of Devil's Night Dawning, I will put a link to it so you can watch it, but this will also be non-spoiler. And this book is one of my favourites of the year. It was just one of my absolute favourites of 2017, and it was one that I finished up the year with. It was actually the last 5-star rating I gave out in 2017, so definitely an achievement and definitely a book that I think so many of you would love, especially if you've already read the first. You do need to read the first. But yeah, this book was so good. I cannot believe that he actually did it again and he didn't do the thing where it flops on the second book and then it's good again on the third. No, this is just as good. It was fantastic and it wowed the socks right off me once again. This, once more, follows some of the characters from book 1. So we have Adelko and Horsgrim, who are two monks. They were kind of the main characters of the first book, I would say, but I think in this book they are not so much the main characters. There's actually quite a few different characters who kind of start to take centre stage as well with them. Horsgrim is an adept and Adelko is a novice, and they work together sort of travelling across the lands to exorcise demons from people and basically try and help wherever they can. They are on a quest at the moment to travel to a place where they can get help because an artefact that their monastery was guarding was stolen, and they know that various other artefacts around this world were also stolen, and if these artefacts get reunited then something terrible is going to happen. And we also believe that there are different warlocks and people with bad magic who are working behind the scenes in this world to corrupt and destroy various things. So they are on a mission of vital importance to try and stop this. One of the things that I think was very interesting about this is that although we do have lots of other characters who kind of intersect with these two at various points, the whole action of the plot is revolving around them. They are two characters who sort of started everything off, and so when we follow them throughout the book, their plotline is always really interesting. Although I would say that all of the plot lines in this are really interesting, they're probably my favourite just because we've been with them the longest and we have like the most emotional connection to them. I think that Adelko is probably one of my favourite fantasy characters in general because he's exactly the sort of character that I like rooting for. Someone who has this untapped potential, who can grow over the course of the book and who questions things and doesn't just accept things at face value. He's actually a really interesting person and he likes to think deeper about questions and motivations, and I like that a lot about him. He's definitely a character who started out quite naive, but he's been growing and learning over the course of the book and developing his skills in his scripture. In this world, the scripture and the prayers are the way that they banish these demons, so it's kind of like a magical, holy magic, I suppose. Horsgrim is also a character who I really enjoy reading about because he is quite an interesting one. He's got quite veiled personality and backstory at first, but as the story goes on, and especially in this book, I feel like we learn a lot more about him. When he does explain things, he does so really thoroughly, and he's very careful with how he says things to make it clear to our main character and also to us, the reader. And I feel like the relationship that these two have developed of like a mentor and a novice is just really, really lovely to see, and they have this really good, strong bond that I love seeing. We also have some other characters who are quite integral to the plot, and they are Hetty and Adelena. They kind of came into it a little bit in the first book, but didn't really get to play a huge part, and I feel like in this book they start to become much more major characters. One of them is the daughter of the Earl, and the other one is her handmaiden, and again I think that they are really interesting characters to have in the story because they have a really strong female friendship, which is something you don't always see in fantasy and something I really enjoy when it's done well, and I think it is here. They're very loyal to one another, and not only is the handmaiden loyal to her mistress, but also the other way around. She is also loyal to her as a friend, and it's quite good to see that fun kind of loving relationship between them. They look out for each other and they get into bad situations, but they're always there for one another. They are strong, independent females. They're happy to go their own way and definitely will not take any rubbish from anyone, and they never give up and they're determined, and I really like that about them. We also have Braxus, Vascrian and Torgun, who are all kind of fighting characters. These three are kind of thrown together by the events of the previous book, and they end up travelling with some of our other companions and definitely with the monks at some point of the book. They are all very well established fighters, even Vascarian, who is actually only a squire when the book begins, but he is developing his role as a squire and he's becoming more proficient with his sword and so on. They each have their own reasons for kind of joining up with the band, but ultimately they all want to save the world as much as the monks do and conquer this evil warlock who is doing nefarious deeds. Wolmar is a character who kind of shows up a bit more in this book. He has kind of been mentioned before, but he's definitely not a major character until this book, and I'm glad that he kind of becomes a major character because he had a lot of growing up to do. He starts out as quite a brat and really does need to learn and develop over the course of the book, and because of the situation that he gets into very early on, he has to do that. He gets into a really bad situation and he has to really stand up for himself, learn what his morals are and stick to them, and he has a lot of growing up to do. He has been sent on a mission to discuss the details of the monk's quest with a kingdom far away from his own, and whilst he's there he kind of gets swept up in all the finery and the extravagance that's there, and he doesn't really necessarily remember his true quest and origins and core values, and those are really tested when he gets in with the wrong crowd of people. We also have Rackwolf, who is a character who kind of comes in a bit later in the book, and he joins up with the band of travellers, and he's quite an interesting one. He doesn't feature as prominently as some of the others, but I think because he has joined the band he's worth mentioning. He brings a little bit of levity and joviality to the books. He's quite fun. He gives that kind of much needed softer tone and comedic tone, which we don't necessarily have when the world is going to end very soon if they don't sort it out. So it's really nice to have a bit more of a comedy, light-hearted value. We also have a Brexter, who is a sorceress who is in a different part of the world, and she has ensorcelled the king. She has married him and become part of their kingdom, and she's basically managed to ensorcell nearly everyone in the kingdom, especially all the people who live at court. She's a powerful sorceress who is definitely doing nefarious deeds, but she is not the warlock in question, and she is working with that warlock, and it's all about trying to stop her and overcome her power. What I liked is that we see from her point of view, and we also get to see some of the knights who are against her and trying to resist her will, and it's quite an interesting sort of battle of minds between them, so I like that a lot. We also get some of the explanation for how the magic works in this world through her point of view, and seeing how she manages to ensorcell people and what things she is thinking about when she is casting magic. So I really liked that too, because I thought that was very much needed to kind of explain a bit more about that magic, and she does a good job of that. Another plotline that we have going on in the background is that of the Sea Culls, and this seems to be a fairly new plotline for this book, about the struggles in the Ice Islands. I do think this will develop as the series goes on, but I think it's kind of just been set up in this book to start off things and see where it goes later on. In terms of the world, I said in my previous Devil's Night Dawning review that I think this world is fantastically well fleshed out. It's very expansive. It feels like there is a lot of travelling going on, so the characters get to see lots of parts of the world and lots of different elements, and countries and nationalities all get involved, which I like a lot. It also feels like there is a genuine and real history to it because of the snippets of history that we're told through the characters, particularly Horsgrim does a lot of sort of historical recounting and telling us a bit more information when we come to certain spots, so we do feel like there is that really atmospheric background feeling solid world to back up the story. The magic of this world is all based around holy magic, as I said before. So we have the Redeemer, who is kind of like their version of God, and the monks practice right-hand magic, which is good magic. It's using psalms or prayers, and they can cast away evil in this world. Alongside the right-hand magic, there is obviously left-hand magic, which is the bad magic that these warlocks and sorceresses are using. Sometimes there are even evil places in this world, such as Tintagale, which is where we saw in book 1, and then also in this book we get to go to the Dragmoors or Dragmoors, and they are pretty evil, creepy places that you definitely don't want to end up on a scary night. Overall, I I fantastically enjoyed this book. I thought it was an excellent continuation. It went straight back into the action and it was really, really intense from page 1 through to the end, where I want the next book already because it's so dramatic and so filled with fun. I really, really love this series. I think it's definitely one you need to read if you're into epic fantasy, because it's just filled with excellent moments and really good solid characters and solid world building. But I will say that there is a rape scene in this book, so if you are not interested in reading it for that reason, that's fair enough. I couldn't not give it 5 stars. I needed to give it 5 stars because it's so damn good. It's totally deserved it. I love both this and the first book, and I think they are excellent, excellent reads. So I would thoroughly recommend picking this one up, and I thought it was brilliant. So definitely do that. Let me know in the comments if you read the first one, or if you plan to pick up the second if you've already read the first. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.